Hi again, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Alumni Chats, a weekly podcast featuring alumni from the Department of Broadcasting and Journalism here at Western Illinois University. My name is Buzz Hoon, and I'm the host of the podcast. Today, we are talking with Marcia, Lense, Judickas, class of 1982. Welcome, Marcia.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
And back in the day, just to let everyone know, we didn't have a Department of Broadcasting and Journalism. We didn't even have a Department of Broadcasting. Your major was?
Well, it was under mass communications. So I was in the communication department and the journalism department.
Yes.
But my degree was mass comm.
Mass comm.
Yeah. And we did have a TV station per se. And the studio and all of the equipment was actually owned by Instructional TV, which was through the Department of Education. So they were able to get the equipment to make videos, instructional videos. And we used their equipment for our broadcasts and our news gathering.
So before we get too much into what it was like at WIU back at that period of time, let's get everybody caught up on where you are and what you're doing now.
Okay. I am an anchor at KWQC-TV in the Quad Cities in Davenport, Iowa. I have been here almost 33 years, but it's not the only station that I've worked at. I also worked at a station in Moline and at a station in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and also at a station in my hometown of Rockford, Illinois. Have been involved in television now for almost 40 years. So that sounds frightening. I never expected that to happen, but I also never expected to find a career that I would enjoy for so long. So, if you like it, why get rid of it?
And that leads me into, you came from Rockford, Illinois to WIU. Mm-hmm. And at some point in time, you must have determined that you had an interest in journalism. And I like that sort of in our pre-interview, you describe yourself as a storyteller, because I think that's really an essential part of what we do in this business. So when did you think that was something that was for you?
Well, I originally went to WIU thinking that I would get a business degree. So I was enrolled as a business major and intended on going into advertising. I knew that, I loved writing. I was in honors English. I wanted to do something creative. I had a theater and music background. And so I felt that, advertising would be exciting and creative and demanding. And so that's what I was looking for. And I really enjoyed the business core classes that I took, but I started running into a roadblock when I had to have higher level of math, to be honest. And so that forced me to kind of take a second look at myself and what classes I was doing well in to try to change a major. And so I was doing well in my communication classes, still wanted to pursue advertising, and you could do that through the journalism department. So I made the change. And then I wanted to get involved in my major. So they had a student-run TV station, and I decided to volunteer, and I thought I would probably just run a camera or something. But they also had auditions for their nightly newscasts, and I figured, why not try it? So I auditioned and I got the job. So I started as a news anchor, and I've been one ever since. So it was an aha moment for me when I started working for the TV station. And it was because it pulled together all of the things that, I didn't really realize until I looked back, that I'm constantly curious, always asking questions of people, making observations, picking out things that, are a little bit unique or stand out, but someone else might miss. And yes, a storyteller. So I always have a story to tell. And it was just the perfect fit for me. And I just never looked back. So once I got involved, the next year I became the president of the student-run station at WIU. I was in charge of about 100 students. Of course, we had faculty advisors. That was interesting too, trying to motivate students to show up to a volunteer job. But we had a core group of people, and we really enjoyed working there, and we were dedicated, and most of those people all became successful. So it was a great start for me, and I'm always grateful to WIU for getting me on the right path.
When we look back upon that period of time, of course, there was so much change going on within the industry anyway, in terms of the emergence of television and what have you. And radio was still very popular at that period of time. And so that major and what was going on at that period of time, it took a lot of manpower, a lot of people power in order to do sort of the things that you needed to do, like a television newscast or to put on any type of programming. You had to have a number of people involved, and it really was important to have a very strong student base back in those days. I'm sure that was the case for you.
I mean, yeah, there certainly were more people doing fewer newscasts when I first entered the business than what we have today. And, a lot of that is because of technology. Technology's allowed us to do more with less. Even during COVID times, we have staff members who haven't been in the building for a year, but they're able to code the cameras because our studio cameras were already automated. And so they're coding and directing remotely. We do have someone in the control booth just in case, something goes wrong. Technology all along has made a big difference. People think of technology and they think of the internet or smartphones, those kind of developments and how they've changed lives. But in my perspective, the biggest thing, the biggest change, or the most helpful advancement in technology was replacing the darn typewriter. Word processing on a computer just made my life a dream. We could go so much faster. And of course, research, researching a topic. I used to have to go to the information desk at the library oftentimes on, a project that I'd be working on, or the news of the day that we needed to get more information and background on. The internet obviously took care of that so much easier. We can really just have information at our fingertips and, be able to fly much faster than we used to.
And I'm sure in your case as a young reporter, you had to learn how to have conversations and find out how to dig up information and talk to people, public officials, to find out background information all the time.
That's right. And it just took a lot more digging in your day than it does now. Shoe leather. It took more people and more time to try to get the same amount of information that we can get so quickly now. So yeah, everything is a lot faster. But it's, it's been a fun ride. It's constantly evolving, and I guess that's what has kept my interest as well over the years. It's never stayed the same. Broadcasting has never been standing still. If it's not technology, it's what's happening culturally. It's what's happening economically, because broadcasting is very much impacted by whatever the economic times are in terms of, advertising and cuts and mergers and, different philosophies. And so it's just constantly evolving.
But you have, as well, as you mentioned, I think at any point in time, somebody could have said, I know how to edit from tape to tape, which is what we had to do back in the 80s. You had to record on one tape and then transfer it over and edit to another tape. At some point, somebody could have said, that's it. I'm not doing any more of this, digital editing that's coming on. I'm not going to learn how to do that. I'm not going to learn how to, work on a computer to do those kind of things. And I think that personally, it says a lot about your character that you evolved along the way as well, though.
Well, it's not always easy. I'll tell you that, because I wasn't born with, a computer in my hand like like some of the people that I work with. It may take me a little longer to get it, but I'm determined, and I make it work. And sometimes I make up how it works, but I get the job done.
What I also really appreciated about you, Marcia, is that after you left WIU, you stayed connected with the university. One of the individuals you mentioned was Gordy Taylor, and how he connected with you along with so many other thousands of graduates. And can you talk about how Gordy got you connected back with the university?
Yeah, it was my last full day of school, and in May of 1982. And one of the last requirements before graduation is that you had to go to the Alumni House. And I met with Gordy then, and it was the first time that we met, actually. And he basically told me, you are now part of this great group of alumni, WIU alumni, handed me one of the newsletters that they produced at the time. And it was, I think, the smartest thing that any alumni director could do, because it made me feel like, even though I'm leaving these doors, I'm still connected to the university. And once I worked on my career after a couple of years and got things kind of settled in, and ended up in the Quad Cities, which wasn't part of the plan. But I was close enough to the university that I really got involved as an alum and joined, the Alumni Council, and was also with the communications department. Now the name's changed. It's Communications and Fine Arts. Is that what it is?
Well, it's COFAC. Yeah, it's close enough. Fine Arts and Communication. That's
yeah. That name has changed quite a bit. Just stayed connected with the university. Yep. And it was because what I had mentioned before, I was really forever grateful for WIU helping me find my way and to find such a satisfying and successful career.
Let's talk a little bit about your career in the Quad Cities, because I think one of the things you pointed out to me, which was just amazing to think of, you were one of the first anchors to be on television while pregnant.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I mentioned that simply because, people forget, and it's okay, but they forget that, times were, markedly different when I started entering the workforce. Female anchors were only invited to share the anchor desk in the 1970s for the most part. There may have been a few exceptions. But certainly in local TV, it was just starting to happen in the 70s. And by the 80s, it was women were, as they were becoming more and more accepted in more visible roles in the workplace, they were then also being more and more accepted to have family as well as a career, because at first it was like, well, sure, you can have a career, but you can't have it both. And that attitude started to change in the 80s. And yes, so in the Quad City market, I was the first main anchor to be pregnant on the air, which I thought, you look at that and you're thinking, that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
But that's because women were very dedicated and I didn't even know if I would be able to have a family because of my career, and felt very blessed that, I was able to have, 3 wonderful girls and aside from a great career, my greatest joy and success in life is really having family. So,
and then that was where I was going to go into next, is certainly the demands of the profession of what it can require of an individual, and also making those kind of decisions about how do you balance that out into family life. So, the question is, how did you, over those years, do it so successfully?
Well, I have to give a lot of credit to my husband, who is also a WIU grad. And, he didn't mind sometimes being in the back seat, if my career was creating more demands. he was willing to step in and help with the family duties. And of course, we had a great babysitter. It was an older woman who lived in our neighborhood, who cared for our children like they were her own. We have remained close with that family, and they're like the grandparents that lived closer to us. And so without a babysitter that was nurturing and kind to my kids, and I didn't have to worry about my children during the day while I was at work, without that, I wouldn't have been able to do it.
So what was it like being in the same community for all those years when certainly you are a very visible person? Was it easy for you and your kids? Was it harder for them when mom, everybody knows who mom is?
Well, one thing is that I kept my maiden name because I was in TV before I got married. And so I have kind of separate names for separate lives. And that anonymity of, Judickas being my married name and, Lense not being associated with my children, I felt like they were safe. And so that helped in one way. Grocery stores, big fish in small pond, I guess, so yes, visible, and you go to the grocery store and people want to visit with you and talk to you and kind of slow you down, and you've got kids in tow. But that's okay. I always tell everybody, thank you, because, I work all day on a product and I certainly want you to see the product that I worked on. So I'm very happy for them to, say something and recognize me, because that means that they have been watching what I've been working on. And that's the greatest reward. Never got into this for any kind of celebrity. In fact, I'm kind of a private person, which again, keeping my married name and maiden name separate has helped me, because in my neighborhood, I'm Marcia Judickas. Nobody even thinks about the Marcia Lense that is on the air. So I've been able to kind of keep those lives a little separate. Of course, the kids, they got some advantages, and they said that they would kind of pull some of those celebrity cards sometimes, but nothing to any kind of concern.
One of the things I also really appreciated is that you were willing to be visible for our department, for our young people to see your presence, which was, I think, inspirational for them. Can you talk about who inspired you along the way over the years? What kind of people were supporting and lifting you up?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I had a fabulous experience at Western and got a really well-rounded education where I was able to become a jack of all trades, master of none. But that's really important in our field, to be able to have kind of a basic knowledge of everything, because you don't know what kind of story is going to be thrown at you, and you've got to be quick on your feet in order to report on it and do it intelligently. So there aren't any real faculty members that really stand out. They all contributed to a good education. And, I had people who I worked with along the way and worked with consulting companies and things like that to help me hone my craft. But I wouldn't say that there is any one individual, with the exception of two people, my parents. They were both of them are deceased, very, very hardworking. And I think that some of the reason that I have succeeded is because I was determined to persevere. And, there are times now, just as in the past, where you have to do a lot of heavy lifting and there isn't anybody to help you. You got to just get yourself through it. And I think that their example is what provided me with the guidance and the wherewithal to, be able to get through it and get through it well.
So we've talked a little bit about how things have changed in the profession. Can you let people know a little bit about the importance of how digital, the digital platforms are for your station, and sort of what you do on your for a daily job?
Sure. Yeah, to give you a little background, so I was hired at this station in 1988 as the 6 o'clock anchor, and then I also anchored the noon and produced the noon, and did that about 10 years, and then they made some changes, and we started a 5 o'clock newscast. So then I anchored the 5 o'clock news, and then there were more changes, and they took the entire 5 p.m. news team and moved us all to 5 a.m. because that was the growth area. And so they wanted to build on that. My kids were young at the time, and getting up at 2:30 in the morning to go to work was just not really working very well. I wasn't getting sleep, trying to meet their needs and my career needs. So at that time, I proposed the internet, and how it was being used in news was just getting kind of started. And we didn't have a news person who was actually working on our web stories. So I proposed a job to get me off the morning shift. And that's when I started producing an hour-long noon newscast, and then working as web manager. And so I had to learn how to speak geek, and had to, learn the insides of our, CMS, and, be able to show others and train others how to get on board. And as that evolved, we started adding apps, and, suddenly there was just this explosion. And, we all know the story of social media and how the smartphone and everything has all kind of taken everything to multiple screens and, very fast-paced movement. And fortunately, unbeknownst to me, I was able to keep myself relevant by putting myself in that position. And it was a struggle. There was a lot of learning curve. I had to learn a lot to be able to do it. But all along, I could see that we were giving a lot of content away on social media, and I felt like it was eroding some of the strength in our broadcasts. And so I was trying to remind everybody, be careful, don't give it away. I'm not talking about clickbait here, but it was just, make sure that you bring people back to your brand to be able to get more. And now it's become digital first, because so many broadcasters just put everything out there that it's too late to pull back. And now people expect it. They expect to be able to get it whenever they want it, wherever they want it. And so you really just have to keep up and try to be the trusted brand where you're going to get that information. As far as our evening broadcast, nothing beats good storytelling and having someone tell you a story as opposed to you reading some headlines on your smartphone. So I think that's what's going to keep broadcasters going. But they've created their own challenge, and it is what it is. We have become what we have become, and I continue to move. Now we are moving to what is called the OTT, which is over the top. Many people are now cutting the cord. They no longer want to be with the cable system. They're frustrated for whatever reason. And some TVs today don't even have the capability of an antenna. So if they're going to cut the cord, they're streaming their content. Right. And so that's the next venture for us, is we are trying to get out there more. We have dual live streams. So we live stream our broadcast, and we have a secondary live stream. And that's where we can broadcast breaking news and live news conferences and kind of raw material to just try to attract another new audience. Specifically, those people that have decided that they're just going to stream, they're not going to watch traditional TV, the way we've known it for so many years. So we're trying to get ahead on that. It's another learning curve for me, but I'm excited.
Wow. And I like how you see all these things just as challenges and not obstacles. It's a refreshing approach to things that are, as change continues to happen, it's going to happen. I think sometimes it's about the approach. And when you have a positive approach, and I think you have to all the changes in your life, it really helps make it a little bit easier. Let me ask you, Marcia, before we forget, what kind of recommendations do you have for students, for today's students, as they get into the market?
Well, you definitely want to be diverse. So, you want to be able to be not only someone who can write in broadcast style, which is, very simple declarative sentences, but as we know, that doesn't look very good on a website. It looks like a first grade reader, right? So you have to be able to write in many ways, shapes, and forms today because of the different platforms that we have. Headline may be the most sufficient way to do it, or it may be something that is in long form. Our reporters are now called MMJs because they're shooting for themselves, they're streaming live, they're Facebook living, they're doing all kinds of things. A lot of things are asked of people today. And it's, fast and quick. So, but the basics are the same that they have always been. One, that you just have to love the written word. You have to be good with the spoken word. You have to be able to think on your feet. And you have to be in it for the right reason. And it's not, to be famous, because that really gets old very quickly. And it's not glamorous when, you're outside, for hours in whatever conditions, reporting. So you have to have, a deeper passion in order to get you, through a career that is exciting, but yet, certainly has its challenges in front of you. And so I always tell people, look at your talents, look at your gifts, make sure that you are not doing something, and it doesn't matter whether it's broadcasting or anything else. Make sure you're not doing it for the money or because that's what mom wants me to do. You have to do something that you like, or it'll feel like work, and then you won't want to do it. I feel like I'm still having fun every day. So that's what keeps me going.
Well, that's some great advice. I appreciate that. And I appreciate your time on today's podcast. Great to have you.
Thank you.
So remember to join us again next week when we'll have another alumnus from the university. Until then, stay safe, take care, and God bless.